Dr. Castleberry back with Michael, and we are talking about all areas of professional engagement, some of your various duties, and we just finished fielding some questions relating to not only passion and purpose, but also goals. Right? Did you have any final thoughts or final comments on goal setting? How maybe the private goals versus professional goals? How those two are separate yet
Right.
should be carried over?
Right. So I mentioned before, and that was a very good question. Coming into a career with your own set of private goals or personal goals, goals that you've said, okay, this is what I want to do with my career, but also blending those with the task at hand, the job you've been given to do. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you cannot have friction between those two goals unless you're just prepared to go rogue and deal with the consequences of that. Obviously, you're not going to go into work for the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation with the personal goal of destroying hunting and fishing as an approach to wildlife conservation. Or you're going to struggle there. Or if that is your goal, you can be prepared for a rough road ahead. But the way I would emphasize that and the message there is that you can say, okay, my job is to do this, ABC, whatever it is. In my case, my job is to communicate the messages of the wildlife department to sportsmen. But within that, a personal goal of mine might be to see the number of sportsmen who hunt and fish in Oklahoma and who understand the messages of the department, to see that increase. And you can evaluate that through surveys and work with human dimensions specialists, people who are able to look at data and the way people understand messages, and you can gauge whether you're being successful.
You mentioned something just now in response to a previous question we had from Kimberly, and it got me thinking about not just social media presence, which you've described, but also social media management. All right, and so when you talk about representing, for example, the Oklahoma Wildlife Organization, have you struggled with that tendency to both be yourself on social media when representing them? With the background as a writer, sometimes you have creative freedom, right? You like to explore it through writing, and social media is but a form of written communication, oftentimes, with certain exceptions.
Yeah.
But do you find that what kinds of self-control do we need to practice when we go into a position, because we do have students interested in being social media strategic communicators professionally?
Yeah, there's a definite balance there, because when you're being hired by an agency to be engaging, fun, meaningful, impactful on social media, there's an element of your own personal flair and style that has to come in there to do well at it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, like in my case, I work for a government agency or the government. So, but not exactly. We want to create that sense of closeness with our audience, with our constituents. So goal one is, first off, finding our constituents, who we want to talk to on social media. But our end goal as an agency is to obviously fund conservation and conserve our wildlife species.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very, that's a lofty and important end goal. But yet you've got to get on there on social media, whatever the medium may be, and engage in a way that makes people not only engage with the social media platform, but also get out and engage with the outdoors and buy their hunting and fishing license and being part of what we're actually doing on the ground, not just at their computer or on their phone.
When you describe social media engagement and outdoor Oklahoma here in this context activities, this seems like oppositional qualities, right? The digital is something we engage in often, at least it seems like indoors, right? It's insular, whereas a lot of these activities are about outdoor experience, nature. So how do you rectify the two, or what are you seeing in the modern consumer that allows your social media platforms to be the right kind of way to get your message out to the public?
Yeah. First of all, obviously times are changing, times have changed, so when I was a kid, hunting and fishing and getting outdoors was about joining up with granddad and dad, heading to the campground. There was no cell phone to turn off. You were detaching from cars, and you were detaching from the landline, and you were detaching from video games and school and people, and you were connecting with your family, friends on a deep personal level, because you're enjoying all of the sights, scents, the sounds of the woods, engaging in those activities, catching fish, creating these meaningful experiences with your granddad on a boat as you both catch a nice fish or whatever. And then that night going and sitting around the campground and maybe making a campfire, roasting some marshmallows, whatever it might be. Today, it's different because your tribe, so to speak, is not just dad and granddad. Mm-hmm. It's everybody on that social media feed. And now people are hungry to connect with people in that way too. And it can be used for that. If you aren't careful, you can detach from people on social media, but it can also bring us together. And so now today's youth, they're just chomping at the bit to get a picture of themselves with their fish, or whatever it might be, if they're a hunter or an angler, and then go put it on social media for their other friends to see. And therein is a connection they're making with people. It's the same connection in a way. Mm-hmm. The memory they made with their granddad on the boat, they can now immediately share that memory by uploading that picture and hitting submit. And there it is. Hit post, and there it is. So we're trying to create those kind of connections and create those same, warm and fuzzy feelings that we had around the campground as a kid when hunting and fishing. Now it's just it's a bigger circle, a bigger tribe that you're trying to engage.
From the campfire to Firefox, right?
There you go.
All right, let's take another student question before they log off. The more bad jokes I make, the lower my statistics go online. Yeah. Not that anyone's counting, but let's take a question from Aaron here.
Hi, my name is Erin Stelger, and I would like to thank you, Mr. Bergen, for joining us today and answering our questions.
No problem.
I have 2 questions for you. The first is, how do you handle negative comments on the social media accounts that you manage?
Negative comments, yeah. So negative comments are, they're just a fact of life. When I was, like I said earlier, I was a magazine editor at one point. Mm-hmm. And I basically controlled the conversation. I would put something out there in a magazine that went out every other month, and it went out, and that was it, message delivered. And what I wanted to say and what I wanted to convey, if I was good at it, I got it there. Mm-hmm. Social media is different because immediately you can be met with friction, animosity, disagreement, whatever. Someone could just be having a bad day. Someone could be mad at your organization. Someone may not like you if they know who you are behind the screen. Any number of things can bring out the negativity that we sometimes see on social media. So how do we deal with that? For the most part, we roll with it, because that's the whole point of social media. It's an engaging conversation. It's a new skill level, because now we're learning how to still control that conversation while not stifling the engagement of the people that you want to, be in a conversation with. So, let's say it's a Facebook post and you've got 100 comments. Well, is the likelihood of one of those being, less than praise for you or your organization is probably pretty high. And usually we just let them roll. And we usually have enough fans or likes or, friends, so to speak, in the digital world that, we can roll right along with our conversation. And where we can, we would engage with those people. Like, if, for example, if someone has a negative comment about something, if we can answer them fairly and without getting off track, we will. In some cases, though, for example, like, let's just say as a government agency, if someone, comes in with feedback that is, let's say it's, vulgar or something like that, we do have some policies in place that, those users might be banned from following our page. Because we're a government organization, we're supposed to be family friendly. Mm-hmm. There are certain things that we're just not going to allow other constituents to even have to come across and deal with when just trying to interact with us in a fun way. That's kind of what social media is supposed to be for us. Informational, formal, but fun. So, we want to be a safe place for a 10-year-old to come and learn about hunting and fishing and conservation. So if he has to wade through a bunch of maybe vulgar comments, even though he may be exposed to that somewhere else, it's not going to be on our thread. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right.